Every once in a while, you can get a fully paid for car from your company, where you get a job and you work and they give you a car and you don't have to waste that expense. That would be pretty cool. Sometimes you get a stipend from that company where they just kick you over a couple bucks and you get to choose which car you want as long as that stipend pays for it. But sometimes, some of us, we don't get that option, but we have a very specific car in mind. It's a dream car. It's a car or a version of car that's so important to us that we're willing to put money aside, to go out of our way to make sacrifices for that car. You can see it, you can feel it, you can smell it, you can envision yourself driving through the Autobahn, actually maybe just driving too fast through the mountains here in America. But it's a car that you're willing to work for. This is an analogy for the retirement you want, and today we're going to talk about what retirement are you willing to buy? The car analogy was just that, an analogy. But today, the responsibility of retirement falls directly on our shoulders. There was a time when an employer would pretty much pay for retirement for you. You would get these big pensions through your employer. They'd put a bunch of money into it. Maybe you'd put a couple bucks into it, and then you retire and you're off to the races and everything is fine and dandy. That's that paid for company car. But we definitely got to wave bye-bye to that, especially now in the 2000s and 2020s. So the question becomes, in our third example of cars, what car do you envision? What retirement do you envision? What retirement do you dream of? What sacrifices are you going to make to get that retirement? That's what we're going to talk about today. Make sure to stay tuned to the end, where you hear about some adjustments that you can make to get you back on track towards that retirement and feel comfortable and confident in yourself to be able to envision a bigger, better retirement situation. Hi everyone, welcome back to your classroom. I'm Thatcher Taylor, the owner of ProPath Financial and certified financial planner. Retirement planning is my game, and throughout this video, I want you to think and envision what would be your best retirement. What are the scenarios that would make you sit back in a rocking chair at 78 and you're like, man, this is the one. I did what I was supposed to. I want you to start thinking of what that could be throughout this video. Hey, everyone, make sure to like, subscribe, comment, algorithm, the whole thing. I just want to mention that. Let's keep this channel growing. Thanks so much. Like, subscribe, comment. Let's keep moving on. Most of you, I bet, are saying something along the lines of, I tell you to envision this. Well, I'm just, going to have the retirement that I'm going to have once I get there. Once I get there, kind of what I've done is what I'm going to have, and I'll make do with what I got. It's a very passive approach, I may say. And after 15 years of doing this, it's actually a really popular approach that most people are utilizing. But I believe that this type of mentality, the let's just see what happens when I get there type situation, is the type of mentality that leads us to having a retirement that is way worse or way more underwhelming than what we could have achieved by taking steps along the way. Hang on, before we move on, I know it's really annoying, this whole envisioning stuff. Keep talking about this, I keep saying it. It's probably so annoying, I know. But remember the car analogy above. The dream car is the purpose. The dream retirement is the purpose that you're gonna make sure you're investing and taking the time and evaluating taxes and saving enough for that retirement. The vision gives you the purpose. It gives you the pat on the back. It gives you the reason to save 15 to 20% of your hard-earned dollars in some sort of retirement savings or retirement investing vehicle. And when it gets tough to save that amount of money, you can remember, I'm doing it because I want 5 extra vacations in retirement, or I want my house paid off, or I want to make sure my family's going to get some money at the very end, or I want to make sure to live comfortably and not have to worry about any expenses. That's why you're doing it. Okay, so there's 4 scenarios of how pre-retirees going into retirement are going to view their particular situation. I'm focusing on pre-retirees because in a minute we're going to go over some charts, some really interesting research that's going to show pre-retirees and retirees are in a completely different world, because retirees got started earlier than pre-retirees, and so they have a little bit more comfort in their retirement journey, and we'll go over that here in just a second. All right, the first retiree is the save what I can retiree. The Save What I Can retiree is kind of what we mentioned before, where I'm just gonna kind of save what I can and see what happens in 20 years or 10 years or 5 years, and whatever I have, and if I gotta work, I'll work, where it's a very passive scenario where you're making some money and you're doing some saving, but you're not willing to go the extra mile. That's the first version of pre-retirement. The second scenario is the ideal scenario where you have good income and you're a good saver. This situation basically leads you to retirement where you're probably gonna have too much. You probably can't spend it all because you've been a really good saver, so you've developed the habits over the years. But it's a really interesting place to start because those people are gonna be like, yeah, you know, retirement's fine and dandy, which is good, and you need to make sure to manage that wealth. Number 3 is good income but no savings, where you've made a pretty substantial amount of money, and I don't have a particular number in mind, especially with different parts of the country, good income means different things, but you make good money but you spend a lot of it, and you're limiting your ability to grow your wealth. And this is a problem because if you spend too much, you're creating a lifestyle that on your first year of retirement is going to be very difficult to make last throughout retirement. So you're really setting yourself up for failure by making a good income and not investing or saving enough. And then scenario 4 is the saddest one, it's the hardest one to work through, is you have low income and you're not a great saver, or you don't have enough money to save. This is a very difficult one. Okay, so let's go into some statistics. 43% of non-retirees think that they're gonna have enough for retirement. That's 43% that think that they're gonna live comfortably, as opposed to 77% of already retired individuals say they're living comfortably. See how this goes back to the pension thing? If you're already retired, say you're in your 80s and you retired 20 or 30 years ago, you still may be getting some sort of pension and good Social Security, and your expenses were low and your house was paid off. But if you're a pre-retiree, you're starting to feel far less comfortable about your retirement. And 42% of pre-retirees say they're very worried. So what is everyone worried about? I think it's the cost of retirement. So there's some different versions of retirement based on cost. And the first one is the very low cost retirement, where you have low expenses and you think your lifespan is going to be very short. So you're not going to spend a lot of money, you're only going to live maybe around 15 years. This is going to be a very low cost and usually pretty simple retirement to work through. Then you have the more costly version where you're going to live a little bit longer, maybe you're going to extend to 20 or 30 years, and you're not an elaborate spender, but you like to spend a little bit more on vacations, trips, to see family, and maybe get a couple new cars throughout retirement, where you're still wanting to pay for a pretty comfortable lifestyle. This is a little more expensive than the first version we discussed. Then there's the next version where you like nice things. You like to travel a lot. Maybe you want to have a couple houses and you want to make this last for 30 or more years. The time and the spending is what guides you to how much money you're going to need in and through retirement. Then there's the most expensive version where you want to retire early and you're gonna have a long lifespan. So you could live 30 years or 40 years or more and you wanna retire early. Retiring early usually means you're no longer accumulating assets that you can save and invest. You're starting to utilize already accumulated assets, so it becomes very expensive and a very risky maneuver to be able to make that money last. You can see how going through all these time, age, health, how long you can work, and it can guide us to how much you need to be investing. If you have a very expensive taste and you have a long lifespan, the importance of investing and saving now cannot be understated. So which version matters? The version that you choose indicates where you need to save and how much you need to save. For some, we need to adjust your living now so we can invest a little bit more to make sure to protect that lifestyle at some point in the future. For some, it's just an adjustment in investments. Maybe they just have too much money sitting in cash or low earning investments. We just need to make sure that they're gonna last long enough with some high quality growth. For some, it's we gotta get to work and we gotta save a lot more now. I see your lifestyle, I know what you spend, I know how you like to live, and you're not just all of a sudden gonna change all that when you get to retirement. So we need to really start pushing the throttle now. And for some, it's like, hey, Let's stay on course, but it's about to get really complex. Let's start putting the pieces in place to make sure we can distribute these assets comfortably and cleanly and make sure to utilize Social Security. And if you want to leave some money to heirs, let's make sure that's built into the plan too. So you can see the version of retirement, how much it may cost really matters. So I wanted to go over a couple charts here that are really, really interesting. And this is specifically going back to that non-retirees retirement outlook by gender, age, income, and education level. As you can see this here on the screen, non-retired US adults, 43% think that they can retire comfortably. We talked about that a little bit before. Men obviously think that they're a little bit more comfortable than women are. The age groups are very interesting, and I want to show you this, and this is why I specialize in the 50 plus, because I think it's a very delicate balance that you need to make some changes to make sure you can achieve your goals. And you can see from 50 to 64, only 39% think that they're ready, 38% from 30 to 49. So as you get older, you become more concerned. That means we need to start working harder on making sure you have a good plan and strategy. Obviously, income level matters. The more money you make, the more comfortable you are. And that's pretty obvious and unfortunate, but you can start to navigate through that along the way. The next chart here is Americans' expected and annual reliance on sources of retirement income. You can see all these different sources. Look at the two columns. Look at non-retirees versus retirees. You can see how the sources have adjusted. Retirement now is different than when it used to be. It's not the same. You can't go into retirement the way your parents went into retirement. It's a very clear distinction that we need to plan and prepare a little bit differently for your future. So you can see here a couple things I want to point out is retirees did not think much about 401ks or retirement plans. They thought a lot about Social Security, and then they had bigger pension plans. You can see that non-retirees are big in the 401k and retirement plans at work, less about Social Security, more about regular savings, and less about pension plans. There's some other things scattered in there, but you can just see the variation has to make us believe that we got to plan a little bit differently. Retirement isn't a one-size-fits-all situation. Everyone's a little bit different. Everyone's lives are a little bit different. There's so many variables, and variables can be just that, just variables. But for a lot of people, a variable, when you start to think about retirement, that's what stops you in your track. You think, oh my gosh, I don't want to think about this right now. That's what a good planning relationship does, where you don't have to think about it. You just tell someone your vision and goals, and they help get you there. That's what I do. That's what these videos are for, is to help get you on the right track. But if you need more personalized help, you want a partner to go through this process with you, go to propathfinancial.com/get started, fill out the form. I'll reach out to you. We'll set up a time to chat to see if I can't be of value to you. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned to the next video. Please make sure to like and subscribe and comment, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Thanks for watching.